Your clients want to know that you as an agency are focused on innovation and they look to you to guide them through these things. And so you do need to, as the leadership, you need to make sure that there is some time allotted to that. But to your point about the time savings, with a tool like what we're launching with is, I think the value, because it's both, we offer the time savings and the efficiency, but really, I think from a client retention standpoint, like if we can provide these insights faster at your fingertips and that are more meaningful than what maybe you're bringing today to the table, I mean, that's just a win-win situation.
Welcome to Contrary to Popular Opinion, a podcast hosted by Vujade Digital. In each episode, we bring you provocative topics and novel perspectives around leadership, business, and marketing that defy the norms because exponential growth demands unconventional thinking and visionary action. So open your mind and let's get into this week's episode.
Hey everyone, Kelly McGuire, co-founder of Vujade Digital. Excited to talk to today's guest.
Hi, everyone. This is Todd Juneau, Kelly's co-founding partner at Vujade Digital. And today we have not a proverbial whale, but a whale of a guest in the room because of her background. We have Jill Randell joining us from New York, where the weather's a little bit wet. And the reason why we're having Jill on, and I'll let her introduce herself here shortly, is her background, almost 14 years with Google, Twitter, agency side, and now taking that collective experience into the AI tech startup world. We had a show recently about AI. Today, we brought in a subject matter expert to talk more about AI in the world of agencies. We're not going to get into exactly what your AI startup is because we don't want to give it away yet. We'll do that on another show. Jill, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So yeah, as you mentioned, I spent almost 14 years at Google, which is just mind-blowing to me. I started originally on the AdWords support team, which was before it was Google Ads, it was called AdWords. And my claim to fame is that I answered the very first 866 customer support phone call that came through. So that was me. That was under Sheryl Sandberg's team. So I was very fortunate to have learned from the best of the best. And from there, moved to New York to actually start or help start the first agency support team. And so what that involved was creating strategic relationships with our largest agency partners. Back then, we only had search. So we didn't even have video or display at that point. And then eventually it evolved into the holding company structure that it is today. And so I focused primarily on the WPP holding company agencies, including media and creative agencies. And then from there, moved over to Twitter for a couple of years, working also on the agency team, but on a global level. So supporting WPP agency at a global level.
That's quite a background. You've been very busy. So today, what Kelly and I want to sort of quiz you on and talk about is the idea of technology and tools and agencies and marketing services. And even on the client side, we're going through this crazy rapid change. And I think you mentioned it earlier. A great way to frame this up is the idea of, we said this is the year of mobile for probably 6 or 7 years, maybe before it really actually became the year of mobile. And so now I think we're in that same sort of place again with AI specifically. I mean, it's just AI, everything. Sam Altman was quoted as saying, 95% of the workforce is going to be replaced by this in the marketing industry, which I think Kelly and I would grossly disagree with at this point in time. But that's at this point in time. 5 years from now, that might be a different story. But this is not quite yet the year of AI. But since that is your headspace now and where you're spending all your time, I think what we want to talk about today is how do these tools really impact companies like ours? You can talk a little bit from the lens of sort of the product that you're working on without giving it away too much. But I think we want to talk about, man, there's a lot of great tools out there, but we as agencies are either kind of strapped or hindered by maybe the business model and the labor model. It doesn't make sense. It's too expensive. I don't have enough people to test it. But boy, I'm going to sell the bejesus out of it in my deck and it's going to look amazing. I'd like to hear from you. What are you sort of seeing now that you've gone to the product side in AI space and you've been out sort of sharing this and studying this space? What are you seeing with companies? How are they adopting it? Are they scared of it? Are they adopting it? Are they making it smoke and mirrors? Are they really partnering and digging in? What are you seeing?
Yeah, great question. A lot to unpack there. I mean, I think that everyone is still trying to figure it out. I think that agencies in particular, they're curious, like they're trying to understand what to do. Everyone is talking about it. My agency friends who were at Cannes, it's all anybody ever talked about was AI, AI, AI. But in terms of the action and the execution, I don't think anybody has really figured it out. I think there's a lot of testing. I think that there's a lot of people wanting, seeking experts to try and figure out what to do. But depending on where you are in the agency space, there may or may not be tools that you can actually use to execute. And so, for example, I use creative as an example. So especially the larger creative agencies, they want to use all of these tools, but they're kind of handcuffed by copyright issues. The only tool they're actually able to use right now is Adobe Firefly. And that's a challenge because they want to use something that's better and more creative for them, but without the rights access, they just can't do that. I think there's a lot of experimenting out there, but no one has really quite figured it out. And I think if you're a smaller agency, I think you're in a great place because you have a little more flexibility in terms of how quickly you're able to move and test and work with your clients to gain their agreement in here's how we want to test and here's why. Whereas like the larger agencies, they just can't move quite as fast. So these are just some of the conversations that we've been having. And then to answer your question earlier too about the fear factor, I think from what I've seen, there hasn't really been a lot of fear factor just yet because I don't think people really think that it's going to really impact them in that way that Sam Altman is predicting, which is the 95% of roles will be eliminated or changed, I guess, if you will, because of AI. So I'll stop. I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that last part because it really leads into where my head goes. And I'm curious as to what your experience is. And maybe you're very early in the process and you don't know yet. But one of the things that Todd and I always talk about is whether or not things like AI and other automation tools and machine learning and things like that, whether or not that should be looked upon as efficiency and cost and time savings or additive to do better work and the way that agencies look at that and the value propositions. And that I have a hypothesis around the way that smaller agencies versus larger agencies look at it and where that value proposition is. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts around when you're selling or talking to an agency, what piques their interest? Where does that gravitate towards in terms of what the value proposition that's most important to them is? Does it fall more on this is going to save me time and money and allow me to do things better? Or is this going to empower my people to do better work and deliver better results and make things greater for my client? Or if you see a clear delineation in what sort of gravitates towards people? Because my thoughts are around not only where it should fall versus where it does, but then also what the value proposition that this brings to the table for someone working on behalf of a client looks like.
Yeah, great question. I mean, honestly, I want it to be both. I think both are important. I mean, I think right now, a lot of the tools are focused on the efficiency side of things. And that's great if you're an owner of an agency or you're a manager and you're trying to show improvement with your hours serviced and billable hours. I think, sure, efficiency is certainly important. And as an individual, great. If I can get my job done faster, I love that. That's great for me. But efficiency, really, if you look across the broader landscape, I think that's going to be table stakes. So like everyone's going to become more efficient. So then what's your value? What do you bring into your clients? And I love what you had said in a previous episode about it really should be about the client. You should be bringing value and bringing new ideas to your client. And so I think AI, at least with what we're working on and what we're launching, is how do we enhance that value? How do we utilize data to find additional insights and value that can then help our clients or your clients make better decisions? And how can that inform your marketing efforts? And I think to me, that is really the holy grail. Absolutely, efficiency is certainly important, but it should really be about the quality and the quality of work that agencies are delivering to clients. I mean, clients know when you're just phoning it in. Like clients know when you're just repeating the same reports or the same information over and over. And that's when clients lose or agencies lose business. And so you always have to constantly, prove like, yes, I am a partner with you in your business and I am here to help deliver results and outcomes. And I think AI is really going to, maybe not today, but it's certainly getting better and better and better. A year from now, 5 years from now, I think the quality of those results that AI can deliver is going to be just incredible.
So how does that play in with the kind of the receptiveness in the market that you're getting? Again, when we were first thinking about kind of your tool and other tools and things like that, I think one of the things that comes to mind is I think sometimes there can be a hesitancy to being an early adopter or being experimental and trialing in on different tools and services, because I think from my perspective, one of my hypotheses around why that's a challenge is because that requires non-billable investment. That requires having talented people with experience and understanding and patience to explore something and to test things and to really press the boundaries and figure that out. And that's not generally things that as an agency you're necessarily getting paid for, and it's very speculative, and there's only so many things you can do there. So it really brings to mind, how does an agency stay on the cutting edge and really press the boundaries of things and really try things while also making sure that they're profitable and they have billable hours and they're hitting certain metrics in terms of what people can spend time on and what they can take chances on. The follow-up to that is also the people that actually have to use these tools, right? This isn't generally something you're going to bring in a very junior person, someone who's still figuring out the ropes. You need someone that really understands and knows what to prompt and input. Everyone says with AI, it's only as good as the prompt being put in. Well, that comes with experience and knowledge and understanding of what you're looking for. So how does that present a challenge in terms of, again, getting people willing to spend the time and energy and effort to explore something before it's proven and baked out? Unless, of course, you are saying it's going to save you a bunch of money and that's the trade-off that you get. It becomes interesting.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a hard challenge for agency owners. Absolutely. I think it does start with the culture and carving out a certain percentage of overall what you allocate towards innovation. Like a lot of, at least are like at an agency level, your clients tend to carve out an innovation budget. Well, I think agencies should do the same. One agency I've been speaking with, they have a task force. They have an AI task force. And whether or not, you have to also be careful with that, because if it's too big, then nothing gets done. But you want to select the people who are hungry, who have the right experience and the willingness to, again, carve out a little bit of time in their day. Because at the end of the day, it's a long-term game where your clients want to know that you as an agency are focused on innovation and they look to you to guide them through these things. And so you do need to, as the leadership, you need to make sure that there is some time allotted to that. But to your point about the time savings, with a tool like what we're launching with is, I think the value, because it's both, we offer the time savings and the efficiency, but really, I think from a client retention standpoint, like if we can provide these insights faster at your fingertips and that are more meaningful than what maybe you're bringing today to the table, I mean, that's just a win-win situation.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of what needs to be at the consideration front in terms of there's inputs. It's, yes, you can sell someone a tool. Yes, you can present capabilities, but it's not just the price structure of gaining access to this tool. There's thought and time and opportunity cost and expertise and all of those things that go in. And it just makes me wonder if the typical arrangement is we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, in the sense that if a client expresses interest or is willing to pay for it, then we'll go find it and learn it and get in? Or do you take that speculative chance of, we're going to be experts in this, we're going to get behind this opportunity, and then we're going to bring it into the market and believe that we can convince our clients or our prospects that it is something worth buying into, and there's a little bit more risk to that. So I'm really curious as to what that risk tolerance ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think, again, like what I've seen is the smaller, and when I say smaller, they're not necessarily tiny agencies, but the large holding companies struggle with being able to do a lot of these things. I mean, they have resources where they can test, but in terms of being able to test and iterate and quickly learn. Like our tool, for example, just taking our tool as an example, there's not going to be this big, huge setup, and it's not going to require a lot of time intensive, labor intensive setup process. And it's designed to be very easy for someone to just quickly like click, click, click. Oh, I'm set up. Oh, I can start integrating this into my current workflow. So is this a risk factor because it's pulling away resources from the jobs that need to get done? I don't think that's going to be the case. Like other tools, absolutely. There's going to be more involvement and resources required for agencies to get that set up. But I think if you choose the right types of tools involving AI, I think the risk is really minimal.
But it also sounds from what you're describing that it really requires a champion or a central owner that's going to get behind it and believe it and then bring it to their agency or bring it to their teams, right? It's kind of hard to sell it at an agency level and then have everyone sort of buy into it. You kind of need someone who says, you know what, I love this. I'm going to get behind it. I'm going to learn it. And then I'm going to convince people from my agency or my team to really be there and sort of be that go-to person. Do you find that singular champion or that a task force team or something that's prodding the bigger group to care about something is very helpful and important?
Yeah, I think with anything, having a champion will help the adoption process because you see, you look over and you see your neighbor working on something cool and you're like, oh, I love that. I want to do that too. And it just spreads more organically that way. But yeah, if you have like a formalized task force or someone who is like the AI expert within your agency, then that person shoulders that responsibility for making sure the entire agency is aware of how to use the various tools, like what is going on in the landscape. Like they're owning that particular subject and responsible for making sure that everyone understands like the benefits and how they should be using it with their clients.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Sinek and his circle of why sort of model. Have you heard that before?
I have. I haven't actually read his stuff, but I'm familiar with his name. Yes.
Well, it's pretty simple. He uses Apple as the example. And you wouldn't just say that Apple builds computers. You would say Apple creates devices that enlighten people's lives and make it easier to do this and blah, blah, blah. And they just happen to build beautifully designed laptops. So given the product that you're in, and Kelly and I have had a sneak peek chance to see sort of what you're going to bring to market, and agencies are certainly going to be one of your customer profiles. Can you sort of hone in on the why, like given your background, working with agencies, working with the large holding companies, which by the way, I was on an AI seminar not too long ago. Somebody cited, I think it was from either S4 or Omnicom or WPP. I can't remember which one it was, but some of those groups have already 200 plus AI engineers working just as an innovation team. And when I think back to like my friends at Google who are like, oh yeah, we're supposed to dedicate 20% of our time to like non-billable work and coming up with something and innovating, I think a lot of good stuff's going to come out of that. Obviously, the smaller agencies, even the mid-size holding companies, the Stagwells, those kinds of groups aren't necessarily deploying the human labor capital and the finance to fund 200 plus engineers to build AI across their platforms. But you guys came up with a product, you and your partner came up with a product. You've seen the agency world from a lot of different viewpoints, from Google, from Twitter, from other viewpoints. What's the why behind the product that you guys are bringing to market without giving it away? But in your words, why is it going to exist? What do you think the value prop is for that? Is again, I've seen it. It will save time, but I would argue it's not saving time for the sake of saving money. It's saving time so that people will be able to spend more time on the really important stuff, the insight curation, the story, the narrative, the information that this product will reveal. Getting that information saves time. Now I've got better information that I can use that saved time for to interpret and tell a story with. Why did you guys create this product?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That actually sparked a story. Yeah, the why is because we've been telling stories with data the same exact way since the beginning of my career. Nothing has changed when it comes to how we tell stories, and that typically involves PowerPoint decks, Google slide decks. That entire process has not changed in 20 plus years. And so I think AI is really going to help unlock that change and really revolutionize the way that we tell stories, whether that's with data or just how we present information to clients. Like that, the time is now to make that change. So that's really the why we created this company, because we truly believe that there is a need and a desire to have a product like this. So that's the why. The part that sparked the story is unlocking the ability for your teams or for agency teams to work on more strategic things and bring better value to their clients instead of just sitting there putting together information and data and slides. So back in 2002, right when I first started at Google, our team, we were either responsible for client support or there was a section of the team that was responsible for approving ads. And so a few of our engineers, the Google engineers, were shadowing some of my teammates and just observing and watching them do their job. And so one of them asked, "Why are you so interested in how I do my job?" And his response was, "Well, we're trying to automate your job." And so she was a little taken aback and she was like, "Well, wait a minute. You're trying to automate my job. Well, what does that mean for me? I won't have a job." And so Cheryl then, sat us all down. We had a big team meeting and she kind of explained, this is actually a good thing. You want these engineers to automate your job because right now you went to Stanford and you're just sitting there reviewing ads and approving, disapproving. Your skill set is so much more valuable if we can then have you spend more time with clients. And so I think that was really powerful because it's not that we're out of a job, it's just our job is going to change and we're going to be able to do it better. And so I think with a lot of these tools that are coming out now, especially with what we're working on, we're going to have that same experience where we're going to allow and empower people to actually spend their time doing more important work. That's really the vision. I mean, that's where I think, yes, on the surface, that 95% is really scary. It's a scary number. I don't necessarily believe that 95% is an accurate number, but I think it's just going to change. Like it's going to be different and change is uncomfortable sometimes. But I think if we just embrace it and understand like the power that it will unlock, I think that's just a good thing.
I disagree. And I totally disagree with the 95%, or at least I hope that's not the case. I think for Kelly and I, in our particular company, we are eager and hungry to roll up our sleeves and try things out and break them. And we talked about that earlier with you. Kelly claim to fame is he ran the first, I guess, $1 million worth of ads on Facebook self-serve ad platform and broke it because of the number of ad variations and things like that. But that's what his purpose was it was to stress test it and break it so we can figure out how to make it better. And so I think there are companies like ours that'll be eager to get under the hood with your product and stress test it and break it and then give you feedback and then iterate and make it better and break it again and iterate, make it better. But I don't know that every company in our space has the tolerance for that, the economic sort of capability to spend time doing those things. Again, doing that stuff isn't necessarily billable work. We have to have a level of curiosity and belief that, again, your product will save somebody's time of doing some sort of a task because now that task is being sort of done better and faster. And now they can spend their time on the output of that task. And that's really where the human mind can have more application and value than maybe the machine learning mind or the algorithmic mind or whatever. So I applaud this. I know that we're super excited to get under the hood of your product when we can, when you'll let us and play around under there. But that was sort of my final thoughts to that is we're not big. We're not a holding company. We're not spending all that money putting 200 engineers to do these things. But I do think it's important for companies to explore, have exploration, have curiosity, get in and do stuff, even if it's going to come at a cost, whether that's labor, billable time, whatever. We got to get there. And how else are we supposed to do better for our clients? Like you said, if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, somebody's going to come along and eat our lunch and we're going to lose a client as a result. And it's too hard to find them in the first place. So losing them is catastrophic for agencies. It's not great. So Kelly, final things you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the POV you put there, I think is really interesting. And I think it leads to one of my last thoughts here, which is you've mentioned a few times that there's agencies that have 200 plus people that build these things out. And I've always made the argument that if there is something that is valuable and going to make a difference on a meaningful amount of client campaigns, that someone's going to be out there and someone's going to see it and they're going to build it and they're going to offer it to the market. And Joel, maybe you can validate the other side of the why, which is why you felt that there was an opportunity in the market to create a business and a company with monetization that people would pay for, and that there's a viable economic side of things to build out what it is you're building out. And after you answer that, I'll sort of go into kind of what my last thought is around the comment that I just made.
Well, let me add to that question too, just before you answer, Jill. With your background, you could have got a job anywhere. You could qualify for any C-suite level position in any tech company anywhere in the world and probably make a whole lot of money doing that. Part B to Kelly's question is, why did you take this on? Like, what do you believe in so much about just the category itself, the product itself? I'd love to know. I mean, Kelly and I jumped off a cliff once to start this company, and you're kind of doing the same thing. So talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, when I started doing this, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? I think there's a certain satisfaction of having a vision or a dream and then actually making it happen and bringing it to reality. And so, for a long time, I've had a lot of admiration for entrepreneurship. I love Shark Tank. Like, I loved being at Google early because your work made a difference. And there's something very satisfying to see the impact that you have, like, right away with a smaller company, as opposed to, sure, yeah, larger companies are great in their own way. But for me, it's more personally rewarding to try and bring an idea to life, and an idea that we're hearing lots of validation from all sorts of prospective clients. Like, they want this, they need it, and they're excited for it. There's no better feeling when somebody tells you what you're working on and what you're building is actually going to make a difference in what they're working on and what they're bringing to their clients. And so we rely on partners like you to help us, like, give us that feedback, like, what is working, what is not working, and is it going to be perfect right out the gate? Of course not. But with the technology that's out there and the team that we have, like, it is going to be a phenomenal product. We are so excited. And to me, like, yes, of course, like, I could go get a job anywhere, but for me personally, like, this is incredibly rewarding and I just love it. At the end of the day, I just love it.
So I think, again, I'm glad you answered the way that you did. It set me up for what I wanted to go to with this, which is hearing the reason and the vision that you saw. It validates that there are people out there that see an opportunity in the market, see a value proposition, and can kind of dive in and put all their focus into building that. I think from our perspective on the agency side, the way that I look at the opportunity is validated by that, in that you can go hire 200 engineers and build all this stuff and go all in it as a part of your company or department. But then I see that as you being in the business of selling something, because you've made all these huge investments and now you have to monetize it and you have to recoup that and you have to force that in. And now you have to push that on your clients and you really have to find opportunities for it. I see us as an agency in the business of solving client problems. And by positioning ourselves that way, rather than saying, hey, we spend all this money to build things, we need to make sure people buy and spend on it, we can go to our clients and say, okay, for this client, for client A or client B or client C, they have a unique need. They have something that they need to solve for and challenge for. We can then go to the market under the belief that there are great teams like you who have spent the time, who have seen the opportunity and said, I can solve for that. And we can be the experts that identify it and vet it. And quite frankly, can find something that is a starting point that we can push and evolve into a perfect solution for our client. Because I'll be honest, almost every time we've used a new tool and we've actually dove in, we don't tend to use it directly how it was built or out of the box. We tend to see an opportunity and say, this is really great. If we tweaked it in this way and that way, and could we do this and would this be possible? And we have a team that says, yeah, we could do that. Then we get to something great. And that's where I see a big opportunity as an agency is, can we be in the business of solving our clients' problems by having our fingers on the pulse, having great connections and relationships, being curious, spending the time to talk to teams, be in the know, and when we hear a problem, understand, okay, hey, we know of something. Let's go plug this in. Let's solve this. And let's create something that's really, really good for this client and what they need, not let's go find a bunch of people that we can have write a check for what we bought and what we felt is singularly valuable to the market. And so again, hearing that why you're doing it and knowing that you are not the only person. Like there are people who have these great technologies and these passions and these tools that we can tap into versus being so narrowly focused on what we think is the one thing to solve everyone's problem. And so I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And agencies don't tend to have armies of engineers, and they're not in the business of creating all this technology, nor should they be, really. I mean, that's probably a debate for another podcast, but some agencies have tried, but in general, it tends to not work out as well because, like you said, each client has their own individual need. And so there might be a better tool out there that's better suited for your clients. And then you're stuck with the one you built.
Yeah, well, the luxury of the big holding companies, right? They can put all that investment into that. They'll innovate and create stuff that maybe us smaller guys.
Can they though, Todd? Somebody pays for it. They can't just innovate on nobody's dime. Like that money comes from somewhere. It does have to be recouped. There's bottom lines, there's shareholders. So that's a flyby comment that I don't think is true. Like that is on somebody's dime and it is not their profitability. It's probably not their shareholders.
Of course it is. And so is their fancy buildings and the big events that they go to and all that stuff. I mean, that's not Martin Sorrell just paying for it out of his own pocket. That's coming from somewhere, right? You're right about that. I shouldn't have casually said that. All right, we'll wrap up, Jill. Without giving it away, is there anything left that you want to tease to the listeners about what's coming from your side of the fence?
So you can go to www.deckfusion, DECKFUSION.com to check out what we're building. And there is a wait list, so feel free to submit your information and we'll reach out to you as we are closer to launch.
Get on the wait list. It's cool. Kelly and I are going to play with it and try to break it on purpose.
We're going to try to prove it by breaking it on purpose.
Yes,
so by the time this wait list gets opened up, it should be an even better product than what it already is.
Exactly. Well, all right. Well, we said a lot, but just barely scratched the surface. There's probably 10 more hours of stuff we could talk about. So hopefully you'll come and join us again and we'll talk more once this thing gets released and we can talk about really what it's doing and maybe some of our early stage trials with it and what we're finding. So we'd be happy to talk more about that. Then thank you for joining us from rainy New York, late in the afternoon, your time, early evening. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Contrary to Popular Opinion, where we challenge you to think independently, push the limits, and take uncommon action so you can achieve game-changing results in your business and your life. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.